Hi, I'm Daisy and I'm here today with Paleti, CEO of Laureti, to find out a little bit more about this new exciting mobility tech company. So Marcus, let's jump straight in. Can you give us a little bit more of an understanding of what Laureti is for our viewers?
Laureti is an innovative mobility tech company involved in producing passenger-centric products that include electric vehicles and technologies with service models that support the entire passenger experience. Essentially, we are creating a global ecosystem for business travel to make journeys productive, connected and secure.
So what do you mean by a global ecosystem for business travel?
By ecosystem, we mean everything that supports the journey experience for the user as an operational support for fleets and businesses to deliver that in the most sustainable way possible for the end user. So this is where it's more than just an electric vehicle. So it's a combination of cabin experience supported by software and digital technologies. So from the development point of view, we're combining hardware, software and unique distribution models. As part of this ecosystem, we have an electric vehicle, which we call Mira One, and the technology that supports the entire ecosystem is Mira.os. So the end experience of the product would be that every Mira user can connect to every Laureti vehicle and every Laureti vehicle can connect to every Mira user.
So then how does the ecosystem benefit your users? Can you kind of expand on the customers that you're targeting and exactly what you're providing for them?
Laureti's vehicles are predominantly designed for the business community. It's their personal business lounge on the move. A large portion of the vehicles will be in fleet use with a unique touch where people can extend their lives in the cars rather than pausing it until they reach their destination. So this is the space where they can be productive, be entertained, or simply disconnect and relax. This experience will be available to them no matter which Laureti car they will get into, and there will be a continuous and seamless experience available across all Laureti vehicles globally. And here is also where Mira as technology plays a crucial role in putting the access of the entire vehicle network in the user's hand.
And for someone who's looking at Laureti for the first time, it could appear to be an electric car company. Would you say that that's the right impression?
Yes, we are a company that produces electric vehicles, but it's a lot more than that. We are a mobility tech company. When you take a typical electric vehicle company, their focus is on the driver, which means that top items of focus are things to do with the engineering of the vehicle, powertrain, vehicle performance specs, etc. But for Laureti, it's the passenger that takes a center stage for everything we do. It's about creating value where it matters the most for the occupant in the car. The only way to do that is to think outside the car and deploy technologies and apply innovation to see what's working for the users, the occupants. And there's a clear, unconventional and study-based approach in how we do things versus highly established EV companies. So mobility tech itself is new and emerging, and Laureti is at the forefront of this emerging space. One of the key benefits we have with this model is that we can partner with any EV companies and source an entire vehicle body from them instead of reinventing the wheel. So this allows us to focus on our core proposition and leave the manufacturing part to the EV companies, which is something they're best at doing.
Now, there's a lot of well-known luxury car brands on the market that will be your competitors. When you say that you'll leave the manufacturing to these EV companies, how are you going to then justify the price and the proposition?
That's a tricky question. We see EV companies more on the partner side than competitors. From the end customer point of view, we can't be compared to other luxury car companies. One, because we will be at an accessible price. Second, our model focuses on providing access to vehicles without ownership. Third, in terms of the proposition, the customer gets to own an ecosystem for the price of a car. Lastly, there's a clear differentiation between other premium cars and Lauretis. Laureti is more of a smart device than a status symbol. We designed this for the business users so that they can extract more value and efficiency out of their time than just being able to move from place to place comfortably. And simply, we're going to make this available to as many people as possible.
And one of the things that you mentioned is making Laureti accessible without ownership. So how will that work?
It's because our vehicles will be predominantly focused on fleet use, because business users could access them through fleet operators or ride-hailing apps. The whole transaction is like you pay for each ride. What's different is that through Mira, It facilitates the personalization to users specific to Laureti car according to their profile. That's how it feels like it's theirs. The users are connected to AI-powered system where it predicts the travel requirements and generate predictive scheduling in real time. This way, fleet companies and drivers can also allocate cars where the jobs are with great accuracy without having to run dead miles on the streets. Where we stand today, you have to pull out your phone each time you want to book a ride, right? So with Laureti, you may have a car waiting at your doorstep. So in cases where international trip is involved, people need car journeys in multiple legs of the journey. With Laureti, the ecosystem takes care of the entire trip instead of servicing in fragments.
So you mentioned business class there a lot of times, and when you think of business class, you think of comfort and luxury and larger price tags. So when you're saying that you're making Laureti accessible, do you have a different understanding of what business class is?
Yes, we do see it differently. There's a deeper understanding of this, which is pivotal in understanding our target base. Let's take a look at this. In the last century or so, there's been a clearly established lines between business class and working class. That's all based on who gets to go to work and who gets to put capital. And the products were also aimed at based on those privileges one could afford. So those lines are clearly non-existent today. We recognize that the value is created in a number of ways. It could be from anyone today. The mental picture one could get to see business class is a person in a fancy attire getting around, having unlimited access to exclusive fine things. But in today's world, we see 25-year-olds in t-shirts are launching startups to IPOs. The face and the needs of business class are different to what it used to be. When you consider the aspirations and lifestyles of this era of entrepreneurship, business mobility has not caught up to meet evolving business needs yet. So that's where the disconnect is. Where Laureti is concerned, it's not about selling cars to deep pockets, but moving people with big ideas without losing sight of the purpose of our users.
So does that mean that your cars are more on the economical side as opposed to the premium side?
Today, the being driven experience is only available to costly fleets, executive fleets. Or alternatively, you have app-based ride-hailing, where you get random cars with different comfort levels, but no real changes as to improve productivity or be more secure or help them to relax a little bit more. It's either a case where you pay £5 a mile or Uber price. There's nothing in the middle to look after the people who are climbing up the ladder. So Laureti is definitely economical compared to the top of the pyramid segment, but we are not competing on the floor price either.
So how does ride-hailing and fleet businesses sit within what you're doing at Laureti?
Our goal is to have early partnerships with ride-hailing companies and fleet businesses to make Laureti experience available to the users as early as possible. We see that Laureti will be an experience in a class of its own for the fleet companies. Laureti will bring a new category which goes far beyond what's available in Uber Lux today. I think this will enable fleet companies to explore new revenue streams as customers will get used to a new product or new way of traveling around.
And from an average professional or business person's point of view, do you think there's enough readiness in this product?
To break that down, when you think about a car, you're instantly thinking about driving it, not necessarily about being driven in it. With driver assistance systems and autonomous technologies, we expect a paradigm shift from customers in understanding what a car should be and its use. This new way of thinking is already happening across various modes and models of transport at the innovation level. But if you walk on the streets, it's not instantly visible today. But when these technologies start to hit the roads, they hit big. If tomorrow autonomous vehicles are everywhere, the Laureti's model is prepared for it. Because we can install this experience in any vehicle. We don't have to manufacture them ourselves. This is why Laureti's model is also well positioned for between EVs and autonomous cars. The transition means that taking passengers' feedback and apply it to improve the whole journey experience from the start. I think when we put our product out finally in front of our customers, we know they are ready for it.
And what's the pressing question for you to decide on this approach, and why do you think that it's important? Maybe you can expand on what future scenarios you thought up to kind of maintain compelling relevance to your product.
We start by taking the user's life into consideration. This will help us as wider industry focus turns increasingly to automation and passenger experience. If we look at the technologies rapidly developing in the AI space and autonomous technologies, we understand that they're not just limited to cars, but imagine how quickly they would penetrate in other industries and areas of life. There's no question in my mind how they'll change the way we live, we operate, and how we work. So our assumptions are built on those scenarios. When you no longer have to drive a car, what will you do in the car? So it won't be speed or acceleration of the car that passenger finds the value in, but the tools that help them to make the most of their time when in the car. This is where it's important to have an idea of what those future demands and lifestyles of users look like, so that you can start planning your products and accommodate their needs in the car.
And what do you think the timeline is for that future?
Well, Tony Seba has been the guy who got the predictions right so far, I think. According to him, the inflection point is somewhere after 2025, so we're only 3 to 4 years away.
And I just want to know from you, with a business model like Laureti, what sort of impact are you hoping to create, considering so much innovation is happening in the mobility space?
Let's look at any transportation medium today, whether it be cars, planes, or trains. They're functional in moving people from place to place. You can say it's more of a one-sided interaction, right? So Laureti is about making a journey experience to be more intuitive and personalized. And it's the purpose of each individual's journey we are focusing on, especially in the sustainability conscious, decarbonizing world. Corporate travel is more focused on the value of each journey than ever before, even before pre-COVID situation.
And as you started to develop Laureti as a new mobility tech company, what sort of place did you see that existed for Laureti, and kind of what sort of gap did you feel that it would fill in the future?
When we first started Laureti, it was just another EV company with an aim to get a slice of the exciting EV market. What we're doing now is totally different to when it first started. Laureti's model today, I believe, has an important role to create a new face of future mobility. For instance, until 10 years ago, if you're in a printer manufacturing business, a big chunk of your use case is people being able to print out documents and sign it, scan it, and send it. Today we have e-signature technologies like DocuSign, which wiped out the need for printer for this particular use case. Imagine at that time if you're in a printer business competing with the same product line, and out of the blue someone else has solved the use case by not making the printer essentially, but focusing on the efficiency and experience rather than the existing product, and that way they use software in this case. So Laureti's approach is quite similar to that. The whole equation of a car in our business model is small but significant. In the end, it's the experience that dictates the outcome of our product. In this sense, Laureti is more than just filling that gap. I would say we are repurposing the use of the car into a whole new direction.
For those who consider buying an electric car, the first thing that comes to mind is going green, perhaps being a little bit more sustainable. And you told me that a big portion of your car is kind of sourced as a commodity. So it looks like Laureti's part is quite minimal in making a zero emissions car. So I want to know from you, what's Laureti's direct contribution towards sustainability, whether that's kind of through emissions or carbon footprint?
That's an interesting question, Daisie. Please bear with me as I answer. So Laureti doesn't play a huge role in building a zero-emission vehicle from scratch. However, it's designed to play a key role in reducing carbon emissions and footprint in a significant way by tackling 3 key issues which are not commonly talked about. So those are usage, volumes, and place of sourcing. Let's talk about usage. There's an interesting data that suggests 40% of the fleet trips are deadhead miles. It's very clear that there's a clear issue on utilization of a vehicle. So let me quote from EY. Fleet is a disproportionately big polluter. Fleet vehicles travel more frequently and cover more miles than any other vehicle segment, and as a consequence, making a larger contribution to the CO2 emissions. This is a direct quote. If you look at any EV company today, in terms of volumes, their values and proof of success is directly related to high volumes of cars they have to sell. When you project your entire balance sheet relying on selling huge volumes of cars, how are you supposed to reduce carbon footprint? At the same time, if you sell less cars, the business eventually will be unsustainable. So Laureti is the answer to this paradox in the fleet market, which tackles at the heart of utilization issue through our technology, therefore automatically reducing the number of cars you need for your business. With our technology, a car will sweat a little more by putting the most efficient way to use. The way to do that is to create software and digital technologies to build some level of predictability and visibility between vehicles and users and operators in a way that doesn't also compromise on the security side, right? Mira is designed to bring exactly that level of organization to the fleet market. Therefore, I think we're playing a huge role to help meet the sustainability goals. And by the way, let me put it this. Here is a piece of information from Transport Environment. An electric vehicle battery produced in China and driven in Poland emits 22% less CO2 compared to the same produced in Sweden and driven in Sweden emits 80% less CO2. Such a huge gap, right? So clearly where you make and where you sell determines how much emissions you contribute to. It's all because of logistics. So Laureti's plan is to employ a make where we sell policy as soon as we hit the right volumes. So this is not only a sustainable approach but also contributes to local employment businesses. So in short, one could look at our model and see we're addressing sustainability in multiple fronts by tackling volumes, utilization and localizing production in addition to producing the actual zero emission EVs.
Okay, then let's dig deep into the technology here. So what is so interesting about Mira? What makes it so interesting and different?
Mira is an AI-powered operating system, which is a satellite assistant to the passenger. The experience itself travels with the user beyond the vehicle door. What's so unique about this is connectivity. By connectivity, I don't mean by just connecting to the car. Rather, a network of cars and continuously being able to access your data as you move. The entire system will be built on an architecture that is totally secure and private. It's also a multi-purpose technology that has various functionalities aimed at different constituents, and these constituents include end users, corporates and SMEs, and fleet operators. And of course, the use cases will vary between all of them.
Can you expand on Mira and what it does for each constituent?
Sure. For corporates and SMEs, they benefit from easing the organization within their travel departments. The inflow and outflow of executives traveling back and forth can be highly organized, and it's easily visible through Mira because it connects at the corporate itinerary level. For fleet businesses, you can bring the entire communication and administration between the vehicles, your customers and drivers on a single dashboard. And it doesn't restrict if you already have some fleet management software you're using, because Mira can be configurable to the existing fleet software because of its flexible administrative interface. Let's say if someone decides to launch their own fleet business tomorrow, this means you have the entire system through Mira sitting at your desk or iPad. Mira is essentially a platform where a diverse number of operations are connected seamlessly under one roof. That's the idea. So here you can integrate third-party services and operators like services, hotels, etc. Bring in communication to entertainment on one system. You have multimodal communication and booking. And there's a place where your device instantly recognized and connected no matter which Laureti you get into, maybe seamless payment systems and so on. So there are a lot of features that this particular architecture accommodates, and all surrounded within the user's life.
And I can think of certain California-based EV companies that are working on similar technologies. So what makes Laureti different?
Yes, I agree. There are companies that are doing an extraordinary job in building seamlessly connected vehicles. But keep in mind, in order to have that experience, you must first buy the car. But with Laureti, you can be a Laureti fleet customer, no matter where you travel globally, if you're getting into a Laureti car, it'll interact with you instantly. And this is what is so radical about our technology we're building. I'm quietly confident that we are the first ones to be doing it.
Have you come across any studies or other projections that might predict that this technology is in line with kind of the direction of where things are moving?
Let me answer this slightly different way. Recently, there are a number of white papers, including one from Innovate UK, where they talked about connectivity in a multimodal travel. A number of others like Adobe, EY, McKinsey and IBM are projecting that digitalization in cars are going to be revolutionizing the way we travel. So we're not the lone voice anymore. We feel that somehow our innovation focus has demonstrated that sort of thought leadership in this space. And yeah, there are a lot of validations outside of our business model that we see today.
Now, you mentioned that Mira architecture provides total privacy and security as well. So why is that so important? And also, if you could share any key features of the technology yet?
Sure, happy to. The Mira architecture will be built with an utmost focus on privacy, security and safety. Let's take this scenario. Just over a decade ago, all we cared about is having a Facebook account. Fast forward a decade, we're now concerned about our data and privacy issues. So digitalization of mobility will have same implications down the line. The forward thinking of Mira is to tackle that from the beginning and provide digital freedom to the users, especially when we're targeting a base that is sensitive to these kind of issues. So all data will be highly secure on Mira platform, simply because it's designed to minimize any interaction with the user's data, but only to use necessary aspects of it to provide accuracy in services and experience itself. And this leads to my next point, which is safety. Safety is for us sits in both physical and digital sense. The architecture will be based on Linux platform to build the entire experience, to keep the user data safe and accessible only to them. So there's a physical safety aspect. Our vehicle choice will be based on the highest rating of vehicle among others when we sourcing donor vehicle. So there's one part of Mira's capabilities which I want to touch upon, which focuses on added female safety features, especially in fleet situation. So this is how the Mira as a whole is providing private, secure and safety features.
So how do you plan to improve safety for women in your cars then? Can you kind of expand on the tech components that you'll be using, or the process and how you can solve or help these issues?
Let's imagine a scenario where a woman is getting into a Laureti vehicle in the evening. This system will use various parameters to detect any unusual patterns during the journey and eventually send an alert to fleet operator. So the fleet operator will then be required to act on that alert, and therefore any actions taken will be logged into the system. So the parameters that will drive the alert system are based on things like the gender and age groups and the time of the day that she got into the car, safety profile of the locations based on incident data, both at the pickup location or the drop-off locations, detecting any unusual stop and go, sudden movements in the cabin, or rerouting, driving patterns, so a lot of them. So the first thing it does is to check the driver-facing camera to make sure everything is okay. Then there are steps the fleet operator can take to mitigate the situation or call for assistance. But the real benefit with a technology like this is that women can get into a Laureti car thinking that someone's got their back, and there are safer mechanisms in place where than getting in a car with a stranger.
Now, it looks like you worked out a model from an experience design point of view, so you must have an understanding of kind of what we expect to pay if we were to become Laureti customers. So am I right in thinking that? Do you have an idea on what we could be expecting?
It's a yes and no. No, because we don't have a dollar amount. Yes, we worked from the start by basing all aspects of the design around the passenger experience. So we've taken a lot of study into consideration on the passenger comfort. So the pricing of the ride itself will be in the hands of the fleet buyers. So, but here's something I can share at this point. When we did a cost per mile survey, we looked at business class cars that are available in the market. We then organized focus groups to understand what they would pay for an experience like this. We found that people are willing to pay slightly more than Uber Lux if they're getting the kind of experience we're proposing.
Now, with such a giant undertaking of technology on its own, why didn't you kind of just focus on the technology part and leave out the car?
Well, that would have been an easy approach, but it also compromises on our unique proposition. The reason is, if you were to build just the technology part, and then we have to rely on and wait for some car company to make a decision on our services, that's not only a risky proposition, but also we will shy away from fully realizing the potential. So in order to provide a full experience driven by software and digital technologies, it's important that we understand the instrument in which we will install this experience in. So the hardware itself plays a huge role in how the experience itself is shaped and delivered. So this is why it makes sense for us to source vehicles through partnerships and house the entire experience in it as a full offering to our customers. So one added benefit to that is Laureti is also unique in its financial profile, because with the hardware, the software streams open up to recurring revenue streams as opposed to just offering a single vehicle.
Do you have any plans on production and volumes yet?
Well, our volumes are 20,000 to start with, which is not huge at the beginning, but our growth is very much in line with the growth rates of each market. We expect to have our first deliveries in major cities in the US and Europe.
And my last question before we conclude, when are you expecting to reveal your first product, and when can we expect a launch?
We're planning towards the end of June next year, 2022 for reveal, but we're also looking at 2024 to deploy all the projects through fleets.
Well, Marcus, thank you so much for your time today, and of course we look forward to the launch.
Oh, thank you so much.